Okay, 2 Peter 2, verse 1 to 3. But there were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord who brought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. Many will follow their shameful ways and will bring the way of the truth into disrepute. In their greed, these teachers will exploit you with stories they have made up. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them, and their destruction has not been sleeping. To give you some context here, when Peter writes about these false teachers, he's not talking about some random people that just turn up on the doorstep and just trying to peddle a false gospel or trying to take advantage of Christians. These false teachers he talks about are the ones already in the church. He is warning churches that there are people in churches who are there for their sole reason of causing division and destruction through heresies. And that's what they're trying to do. And that's what Peter is trying to tell them and also tell us today. It comes from within the church. And what motivates false teachers is greed. Now, we started with this picture of greed in terms of money and wealth, but that's just the way they use, the method they use, if you like, to start and maintain their ministry of lies. 1 Timothy 6, verse 10, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Proverbs 28:25, a greedy man stirs up dissension, but he who trusts in the Lord will prosper. And by the way, that doesn't mean you will get rich because you trust in the Lord. It means you will prosper in the Lord and so be saved from hell. You will prosper in your life because of that. Ecclesiastes 5, verse 10, whoever loves money never has enough money. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. I believe the ESV puts it as vanity. This is vanity, it says. Money, trouble, and vanity. It is the gospel of me. It is the gospel of selfishness. It is the gospel of the self-righteous. John Piper says this: prosperity cannot be a proof of God's favour, since it is what the devil promises to those who worship him. Well, I disagree with some stuff of some theology of John Piper, but actually, sound teacher, and I respect, but he is so direct in this message that it is simply not proof of God's blessing because you've got some money or you've got some wealth, and so therefore seek God because of your wealth. Matthew 16, verse 24 to 27 says, then Jesus says to his disciples, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what he has done. You see, this motivation is not some magic formula that false teachers have come up with. They are in fact using that which exists in all of us, our sinful desire towards the preservation and profit of self. It is what lives in us. It is the part of us that is always there, but as believers in Jesus, we strive, as it were, not in a way that is bad, but we want to work towards being more Christ-like, and so we don't want the worldly things to rule us whilst we use them, and it's okay to make money, it's okay to have a job, it's okay to have a salary. It's even okay, by the way, to be rich. But what is the purpose? What is the reason why we live? Do we live for the wealth, or do we live for Jesus? And I've said this before because I've heard this, and I think it's a great explanation. Some people will say, why is it some people are rich and some people are not? Some people even struggle every day. Let me say this, in terms of the rich side of things, why not everyone is rich. Certainly within Christian circles, and I'm talking truly full-on believers of God, God knows that those people can handle that amount of money. For others, God knows they cannot. And so what he knows is, for some, if you had that much wealth, he knows that you will go off the path. He knows that you'll probably likely lose focus on God and end up being wealth driven, being rich driven, being money driven. It's not bad to have it, but what is our focus in how we live our lives? And it might sound okay that these false teachers are just bringing it on themselves, but if we are the body of Christ, then we cannot go around with blinkers on and simply thinking we should not call these people out because some of their teaching kind of sounds okay. In fact, Peter makes the point when he says, I think I've got it on here, they will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord who bought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. Although their general teaching sounds okay, they use that as a means to introduce false teaching. They use this method to introduce false teaching. Yeah, do you want to go through? Thank you, guys. So they use this means to introduce false teaching. So what they do is they wrap up, they use really biblical sounding things that sound okay and right, and they sound like, oh, that sounds like it's from the Bible. And then what they do is they kind of insert heresies. And that's why Peter says they secretly do it. They do it carefully so that you don't really notice, and certainly they appeal to the naivety of Christians. They try and insert things into what sounds good. Let me be clear. There are people who are terrible at hiding heresy. They're terrible at hiding false doctrine. But there are very clever people who dress up their heresy in biblical words. And so it sounds like it must be right because that must be God who God is. And what they play on is our naivety. If we don't read the word, if we don't keep studying it, this is what happens. Peter deliberately says any false teaching is a problem. Any false teaching is a problem. I don't know if you remember, but in Greek mythology, there was something called the Trojan horse. I got to this point and I thought, wow, that's in my world of cybersecurity that I work in. There's obviously Trojan horses that work in, that we call in cybersecurity, that dress themselves up as something that's okay, but actually within them is something terrible, probably infect your computer and all those things. Here is worse. It's said to have been used by the Greeks during the Trojan War. They entered the city of Troy, and they claimed it was the offering to the goddess of war. They said, we're going to step back. We're not going to fight you anymore. So we're giving you this present. And it make Troy impregnable. They won't be able to get in because of this amazing gift we're going to give you. And that very night, as the horse sat behind the gate, the warriors got out and then opened the gates to let all the Greek army in and so win the war. It is certainly of that time clever. I mean, we would probably look at this now because we've got experience of even seeing this and knowing our history, that if someone did that today, we would go, this is a Trojan horse, right? Quite clearly. But think of the context of that time, of what happened then. This has not been done before. Certainly in Greek mythology we read that this has not been done before. And so this could quite easily happen. They're dressing something up within it. They're not expecting hordes of warriors. And then for them to open the gates and to let this whole army in. This is clever. This is very clever. But this is what false teachers do. They use the Bible as a Trojan horse, and then while we nod along to it, they carefully release their secret heresy from within. And this is why if someone is teaching false doctrine, they are a false teacher. Not some of the time, but all of the time.